Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on Gran Turismo 7 and I'm back with another track guide to try and help you improve at this week's Daily Race C. So if you're wondering what the combination is, we are at Kyoto Combined, the really long version of Kyoto in Group 3. Now unfortunately there is no strategy for the race, it's just ×1 tyre wear, ×1 fuel, and it's another very straightforward sprint race. So yeah, I really hope they can bring some strategy to these races soon, because it is starting to get a little bit too much in my personal opinion. But onto this guide. This track, not particularly one of my favorites or best tracks. I've just done a lap to try and help you improve, give you some basic tips. I've done a reasonable, it wasn't the top 10 stars, but like I say, I think once the majority of fast drivers are on here, we'll be well over a second off that top 10 stars. But I can get my lap probably into the 14.67 range if I really push this time trial. But for this guide, we've done a reasonable lap. Hopefully it'll help you lot out. Hopefully it'll help you out in terms of braking points, some gear shifts and stuff like that. We're using the Beetle because the Beetle does seem like a pretty good car here. It'll probably be very good for the race as well with the way it handles. So a very solid car for this combination. So yeah, let's get on with this guide. Do remember, hit that like button if this helps you out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And we'll go through the guide now to try and find some pace for you. So going into turn, the final corner, obviously, make sure that you get a good exit. Go quite wide. Get on the throttle nice and early and give yourself some good straight line speed for the start. Straight now. Turn 1, we're going to be looking out for the 50 board on the right hand side. We're going to slow it down as we get to that 50 board. So over the line, get the car over to the right hand side of the track, and then there we've got the 50 board on the right. Now you're going to get the car as far over to the right as you basically can. So you're going to go onto the curb, use some of the curb to rotate the car in, and you're going on the brakes just past that 50 board. So just as you go past onto the brakes, now you're going to trail brake all the way into this corner, just gradually. You can see gradually coming off the brakes, and then downshift into fourth to get a bit of rotation. This is how I do it. And then early on the throttle, try and carry the speed out of this corner. It's really important to get a good exit. Now I didn't actually do this perfect, but you can definitely gain quite a lot of time if you get on that throttle at the optimal time. And then this is completely flat out now, so we're going to slow it down, but it's just completely flat out. Just use the curbs on each corner, making sure that you take as straight line as possible for the shortest distance. So again, up on the curb, and again coming through this corner, we're going to go up on the curb and then work our way into this really tricky fast left hand corner. Again, very much like turn 1. So using the 50 board on the right hand side there, that is pretty much our brake reference and our chuck-in point for where we're going to throw the car into this corner. So you're going to see as we hit the 50 point, onto the brakes, and now we're going to really chuck the car in. You want to keep the car close to the apex on the left again, because that is where the grip is. So we're trail braking briefly there, just a little bit of trail braking in the corner, and now we're getting on that throttle nice and early. And this is where you really want to make sure you get onto the curb. Now you really need to be on this exit part. You want to be up on this curb to get the rotation. Now I didn't carry as much speed as I would have liked through that corner, and didn't go as tight as I would have liked, so not perfect through there. Could have been a couple of attempts further up, but it's not too bad. So into the next braking zone, I use that white line on the left hand side, the first one you see there, as kind of a reference. We're going to brake just past it though. We're not going to brake on it, a little bit past it onto the brakes, and you're going to really use the full width of the track, again using the full bit of blue tarmac on the left, and then we're going to start rotating it into the apex, because you really want to hold it quite tight to this apex on the right hand side. So again, trail braking all the way into the corner. Then we're going to use first gear to help rotate the car, then back up to second gear here. Now this is quite important. What we're going to do is we're going to get on the throttle and we're going to get the car over to the right hand side of the track as much as possible. You can see I'm going to really use the curb on the right hand side, and this is because you can carry so much more speed if you do this. So onto the curb, braking way before the end of the curb as well. We're on the brakes quite early, and what we're going to do is chuck it in at the end of the curb, and then early upshift to third gear. Keep your eye on the gears there. And what's the difference between the tight line and that wider line? You get much better exit speed, and it really does help us pull away from this corner. Make sure you use a runoff bit of curb there on the right hand side. You can actually get away with using quite a bit of that, and then work your way onto this flat out corner. So this is completely flat out. You can see no lifting needed here, completely flat all the way into this very tricky left hand corner, one of the trickiest corners on the track. So I use that white line as my reference for where I'm going to go, a little dab of the brakes and just chuck the car in. So yeah, use that white line, downshifting as well as you go through the corner. You're going to see, so staying in fifth gear briefly now, and a little bit of brake, and then we're going to downshift just as we get close to the apex when we feel that understeer kicking in. Now if you look in the mirror here, you can see I've downshifted there, but you can see my ghost was actually tighter to the apex, and staying tighter to the apex is actually the better way to do this. You can see the ghost actually catching me by at least a tenth there, and that gives yourself much better line through this. So you really want to try and stay as tight to apex as possible. Be careful not to get on the throttle too early, because the car will understeer massively if you do so. Now our next braking reference, we're going to use it where the angle changes on the barrier on the left hand side. It almost looks like the end of the barrier, but it's not. And you can see there, just going on the brakes there, just as that angle changes. And now again, we're going to stay to the left hand side of the track, downshift through the gears, and then we're going to try and get it into the apex quite late on here. So yeah, going into the corner, changing gear down to second gear. Now watch what we do here. We're trail braking all the way here. Now I realize I'm running a bit wide, so downshift to first gear for a bit of rotation, but because we're in first gear, we're going to early upshift to second and third very quickly. You can see straight into third gear. That will give us slightly better traction all the way through this section, because you want to be on the power all the way from this point. So I don't think this is necessarily the fastest way to do it, but it's quite consistent. You see early upshift to third gear, and you can see it actually pulls away from the ghost. Because we don't have to rev out second gear, we can just go straight to third gear and accelerate now all the way into the next braking reference, which again, I use this R on the track here at the end of the letter R, where that line is, as a reference where we're going to brake. And just as soon as we get there, onto the brakes. And again, I try and get the car in quite early to this apex, because I try and take quite a tight line into the corner. So trail braking all the way in, and then down to second gear, and then try and hold that apex. Now you want to get on the throttle as early as you can. So again, aggressive on the throttle for this exit, because it's the earlier you get on, that little bit of extra speed you're then carrying out of the corner into this another tricky section of track. Now on this game, I haven't really tried attacking these curbs massively. You used to be able to be really aggressive on GT Sport, but I'm not sure you can do it as much on this game. But yeah, down to fourth gear. And you can see onto the brakes before the end of the curb. You can see the red line there. We're just dabbing the brakes before there. And now we're going to go down to third gear and trail brake into corner. Now you really want to get onto the left-hand side of that curb. Now I didn't get as aggressive as what I think I could have done, but I took it quite safe, and then just use the exit curb on the right-hand side, and now working your way into the final corner, which again, we're going to use that 50 board on the left-hand side. You can see it there, 50 marker, and we're going to brake pretty much on that, just before that board there. So you can see onto the brakes nice and early, just short of that 50 board. And this corner is a very tricky corner. Multiple lines you can take at this track on many corners. We're going to try and get it into the apex reasonably close to the white line, but you don't want to go too close, because then you compromise your exits. You can see there, as we go into the corner, we're squaring it off into third gear. Possibly could have done that corner a little bit better also, but I got pretty okay exit speed. So onto the straight. Now keep the car to the left hand side for the straightest line to the finishing line, and we go over the line for a 2 minutes 15.4. Now like I say, this isn't a particularly amazing lap. I'm pretty sure that if I would have done this for another half an hour, we could have got a 2:14.9, 2:15 flat at least. And I'm pretty sure a lot of fast drivers will be going a lot faster around this combination, because I'm not very good here. But we'll watch the lap from chase camera, and we'll show you what we mean about using that full width of the track, and also, you know, some of them corners where you can early upshift and stuff. So again, this is completely flat out, just using the curbs and making sure you carry the speed all the way through here, and then you're into this really fast left-hand corner. Again, this is another corner that I tend to struggle on this track, where you got to chuck it in. You can see I'm not close enough to the apex there. Would have rather been a little bit closer, but we do get it in for the second part on the exit, which gives us reasonable exit speed. And now again, going into this braking zone, you're going to see that little white line that we're using there as a reference. And again, this is going to show you what I mean by widening the line into this corner. Now again, there is probably faster ways to do this track, because I'm not particularly great at it. But what I found here is going really wide there, and then getting the car into the apex and on the throttle nice and early gives you much better exit speed all the way through here, because then it's completely flat out through these fast corners. You're not lifting at all, so it really gives you quite a nice advantage if you get that corner spot on. Now again, you're going to see here how I didn't get it into the apex quite as nice as I would have done. You would rather get that left hand tyre over the white line and almost touching the curb a little bit early than what I did, but we did get it to the curb on the exit with that downshift to fourth gear. And again, here you're going to see with that shift up to third gear how it seems to give us a bit better traction. Now I don't think it's the fastest way to do this, but like I say, I knew that I'd be struggling because I had to rotate the car, so I just did that because I had to put quite a bit of steering input in to get it through that corner. So just to stop the car spinning out, early upshift to second and third, reduce that tire loss grip on the rear tires, and yeah, it kind of worked. Now into this corner again, nice and tight to the apex, on the throttle as early as we can in second gear, and then upshift to third gear quite early again. You can upshift quite early with this car because it actually shifts reasonably well at about 50 to 60%. You don't lose a massive amount of time, so you can actually get away with doing some early upshifts for traction. So yeah, into the final corner using the 50 board again. You see there just before the 50 board, and again you're going to see I didn't take it right to the apex. Now you do probably want to be a bit closer to apex, but what it does is it gives you slightly better exit speed. There's two different ways of doing something. There's so many ways of doing these corners. You really do need to experiment a lot, but in general, if you just follow this guide, you should be able to get a pretty solid lap time in. And I hope this helps you out. Let me know in the comment section if it does. I'll be back with more track guides, live streams, and videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Bye.